Last year we had a project about sort of creating atmosphere in paintings, and one way in which artists do create atmosphere is through light effects. And the idea for this project is a particular kind of light effect, which is basically looking into a light source, or what the French call contre-jour, which means against the light. Okay, so that's really the theme of this project. I thought it'd be quite a nice one to look at. I don't have a particular, well, I did have a little folder that I started collecting images, and I don't know where that's gone. I seem to have lost that between last Thursday and today. So over the weeks, I'll have a look at, see if I've got any pictures I can print off that fit the bill. But to be honest, if you're going through any of my folders, you'll find quite a few examples anyway. Last year, let's have a look. Yeah, I got this book last year. Well, I didn't buy it. I won a load of vouchers, so I got it with my vouchers. So this is quite a nice little book, and I've always liked this woman's paintings. Jenny Aitken, her name is, so she's a sort of contemporary artist. And pretty much most of her work uses this sort of lighting. She looks directly into the light source, or uses photographs where they look into the light source. So you can see it creates quite a nice sort of atmospheric. There's not tons of colour in it, but it's still quite an atmospheric painting. So I've picked a few artists, and you can probably think of somebody like Turner as well. A lot of Turner's, the ones he was famous for, are looking towards the light. So that's an example of the sort of painting where you're looking into a light source. In this case, it has the effect of sort of lightening certain areas, perhaps emphasising certain colours. I think she's probably, used a photo reference but made some changes to it. So that's an example of a wooden scene. So if you've got a wooden scene, that would be a landscape. And I'm picking her work because some of these they're not too challenging. That would be a nice little seascape. Yeah, that's quite nice, isn't it? And then she's also got this one, more of a town scene. So again, they're quite things like the figures are very simplified. You see that they're really silhouettes. There's no detail of arms, legs, eyebrows, any of that sort of stuff. It's shapes that suggest, a street scene, people in a street. So that's, I brought that in for a bit of inspiration to look at that. This is, again, I was thinking about books I've got, and I've always been very fond of this chap's work, Bill Jacklin. I've had this book a long time, and just came across his work in the library once. He's a British artist that lives in America, so these are, I think, Grand Central Station, New York, so these are massive paintings. But again, very atmospheric. Again, he's influenced by, contemporary modern artists as well as masters like Turner and that sort of thing. So that'd be an example of his work, and that's another kind of example. So that's that one. Ken Howard, do you know how Ken Howard's work? So he's dead now, but he was a Royal Academician, very successful British artist, and a lot of his work he uses this kind of particular lighting feature. So these would be like a beach scene, probably in Cornwall. And again, the people are, they're all in silhouette. They're all, you can see some information about, what they're wearing, but if you can't sort of see too much detail there. So they're simplified figures, and this, let's find out this, right. Probably lost it. Yeah, so that's another one. What comes to one I was looking for? Again, that's even more simplified, just kind of, silhouette shape. So again, he's a good person to have a look at. Yes, that's the three books I brought. I brought a couple of my paintings. Over the years, I've done a lot of demos for art clubs, and quite often I've sent them a few photos, and they've picked something out. And quite often they pick something that has strong lighting. So I mean, with my paintings, they're all done from my photos. I go for walks. This is walking out at Southend, near where I live. They're not refined paintings. These are done in under a couple of hours, really, about an hour and a half. they need, if I was to exhibit them, obviously I'd work them up a little bit. That was another one. This one, I think the photos in there. I'll go at this one. And then this last one is the most recent. That it was sort of like a partly done demo for a workshop. So I just did about an hour's work, just working my way through, and just did a tiny bit more while they were working. But you can see in each of them, the light source is within the painting. I'm looking into the light. Things like this, the figures are silhouetted. You get these, you know, sometimes you get a little bits where the light catches, you get that little bit of sparkle, a little bit of sparkle on the water, things like that. And the same with, I mean, really pretty much any, this is a very recent quick sketch I did out at beginning of January, out on the estuary. I mean, pretty much most sunsets or sunrises, you're going to be looking towards the sun, or well, not necessarily, you could do a side view, I guess, but this sort of thing. You know, the sun's here, there's a reflection here. And that would be a little sketch of the mudflats. Again, the same sort of thing. You know, the sun's up here, you're looking for the light source, you've got these twinkles on the mud and the water. So that's the sort of idea I thought might make an interesting project.
Where the light is very bright,
yeah.
very bright white, is that a white paint, or is that? How do you get that picture in particular down below?
This
very, very bright white.
That
yeah. One, I think the other one. There was another one.
Oh, sorry. That one?
That's it.
That one.
Where that white is so white.
Yeah, it's white, maybe a tiny bit of red mixed in.
Right.
I think sometimes I've not used it. I've perhaps used a white with I mean, this one's white with a little bit of yellow in, just to kind of warm it up a little bit. Sometimes white on its own can be a bit too cold, unless you want a cold sort of feel to it, or you could add a bit of blue in. But yeah, sometimes it's white with just a tiny hint of yellow in it, or red, something like that. Yeah, so they are. But what makes them really bright is the fact that, you know, all this is, I started on the mid-tone anyway, and then there's quite a lot of dark. So you need quite a lot of shadows to counterbalance the brightness. And this, I think I'll use this, I won't start it today, but I'll do a demo another week. But I started looking through some photos. I took these a few weeks ago, just in Lee, and then we were just walking the dog. So he wanted to go down the steps, so we went down the steps, and there was this lovely sunrise. And I probably took about 30 pictures as I was walking down the steps. It was such a lovely atmosphere, the sort of sunrise in about January. So that was the picture I thought I'd use. This one, a new sun had stuck in my mind. I quite like the fact that this chap was walking up the steps. But then on the computer yesterday, I was thinking, well, actually that bothers me. That's a bit annoying, a bit distracting. So I thought, well, I'll crop it in a bit. So I did a crop, just find the other one, the second one. So that was the second one. I thought, well, that's a lot better. I cropped a little bit of the tree off because I was thinking that's more the subject. I was thinking, well, maybe I even crop it even more, because that's the really interesting bit. So I'm thinking that if I do a painting, that I'll use that bit. That's the bit that's got all the essential information for that. I'm looking into the light. I like the sun. I like the way it's sort of flared all the colours, and you're getting little bits of cool colours and warm colours. So that would be the one I'll work that up into a demonstration. But what I would encourage you to do is to, keep your phone with you when you're out and about. Look for interesting things, or a camera. I tend to keep one or the other with me. And I hadn't consciously thought I was going to take photos that day. It just happened to have, be in this area, lovely morning. There was frost on the ground as well as this lovely light. So, just try and try and think about it in this sort of creative way where you're looking for subjects. It's very easy then to just sort of print something off. I haven't got a sophisticated program or anything, but I can crop photos on my computer. It's very easy to do. You can, even with a sort of very basic computer, you can line photos, darken them, crop them, tweak the colours, saturate the colours if you want. So there's an awful lot you can do to create your own references and then sort of develop them. And as I say, I probably did take 20, 30 pictures that morning, just walking around the steps, and this was the best one of them. Sometimes I'll use a number of different pictures. but try and get into the habit of creating some references for yourselves. I can print a few of these off next week if anybody wants some of these. I've ordered some paper yesterday, so I've pretty much run out of photo paper. The different folders I've got, I mean, some of the ones we've already used for previous projects do fit the bill, and they are atmospheric because of the lighting and this particular kind of lighting. So you may find, things like that when you're looking into a light source. I've printed a couple off, so these are recent ones. That one I think I took last week, just looking out towards the pier. So I thought that was kind of
It's like the Antarctic.
yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because that was, that was the colours really. There wasn't. That's a colour photo. Well, it looks like ice, does it? Yeah. And this was one of the woods. I think I took that around Christmas time. It was quite nice when the sun was a bit lower. Now the sun's a bit higher in the sky in the morning. Again, that's a similar sort of thing. Same one. So I've got a couple there if you want to use any of these. And yeah. Is that enough to get you started? As I say, I'll work my way through one of these as a demo, but you see I do like these sort of demos anyway.